we find out how the bracket turned out for the ACHA Division II regional tournaments that will ultimately decide who ends up at the infamous national tournament. I'm Brett Vickery alongside Brett Luthner and Sean Bretherick, and we don't have all the answers, but we do know everything about these brackets for every single region, starting out with the Western region. First up, number 6, Grand Canyon versus number 7, BYU. Number 5, Wilson State versus number 8, Oregon. Number 3, Boise State versus the lowest remaining seed. Number 4, Metro State Denver, which versus second lowest remaining seed. Number 10, CSU Northridge versus number 11, Montana State. Then we have number 9, Utah State versus number 12, Texas El Paso. Then with the national auto bids, they're going there right away. Number 1, Northern Arizona, and number 2, Northern Colorado. Guys, for our first region here, what's our biggest storyline?
I mean, for me, the biggest storyline is what teams, I think for both of us really, what teams are going to succeed in this tournament, whether it's a hot team coming out of it or whether it's a new team that's going to come up rising in this region. You have so much different disparity. The bottom half of this bracket was all separated by half a point at the end of the day. You had 6 teams fighting for 2 spots. And so really, Sean, when we looked at all the final rankings, are some of these teams that come up, like a Utah State who came flying up from the bottom at the end there, are they going to be able to keep that hot streak going? Maybe some of the new teams go. Maybe some of the experienced teams that have been here before go on.
Well, you have some experienced teams such as Williston State, obviously, that was in there a few years ago in the national tournament with their first time going. Northern Arizona and Northern Colorado were both in there last year, being able to go in there as the top 2 because of course, was the first year of the University of America, who was the number 1 in that West the entire season. So as far as that is concerned, Utah State, and I have them in a very interesting first-round matchup. It's going to be them versus UTEP, the University of Texas of El Paso, with the winners of the TCHC, which is the Texas College Hockey Conference. And they're going to be trying to see if they have what it takes to be able to go up against an experienced team that knows how to get through tournaments, knows how to play games 3-4 days in a row sometimes in Utah State.
Again, though, these hot teams, though, they can really come up and really bite these other teams that are coming into it. I want to see if these teams that have been on a roll, if they can really continue it going into this regional tournament and hopefully for them the nationals. Absolutely.
And so are there any surprises in this region that you see?
What I thought was Montana State just sort of fading down. I thought they were really a little bit they had a good season, and then they started just tailing off. Utah State shot right past them, with their conference play and everything. I thought really that Montana State surprised me with how they dropped out a little bit, but with how close that bottom is, I don't really see too many surprises, Sean, at least from my end.
In the West, I mean, the one thing you do look at is maybe Brigham Young University with their ranking 2 period, which was at 5, then they fell all the way down to 11 in the 3rd spot. Really kind of easing it up on 11 to 12, and then being able to finally get up to 8 and leaving there at 7 where they are right now. Again, the West, as crazy as it can get in some cases, actually really just kind of stayed the playing field.
And keep in mind, too, Brigham Young shot up 4 spots, 1 ranking before this, and that's really what propelled them to get into this tournament.
Absolutely. What is the best matchup, in your opinion? What will be the best game to be at?
I'm loving to look at this 6-7 matchup, Grand Canyon against BYU. We can always sit there and say every single 6-7 matchup is going to be a good one, but Grand Canyon and BYU are 2 teams that have had a good run of play as of late. BYU shooting up at that last little bit. Grand Canyon, they shot up somewhere in the middle of the season, and I think both teams really are going to provide a good barometer of how this Western regional tournament is going to play out.
What about you, Sean? What do you think?
Well, yeah, and I mentioned it before, too. At the University of Texas El Paso, who gets that conference auto bid from the TCHC, will be taking on Utah State University. Again, that is a team that is experienced, that through the years have been in the national tournament, being able to play 2-3 days in a row. And I just want to see what UTEP, with the 233 goals for, that's the highest in the entire nation from what I've been able to see it through the numbers, can do against an experienced tournament team like Utah State. And
UTEP's got the nation's leading scorer on that team, well over 100 points, second highest total in the last decade for UTEP as well. So, there's a lot of good matchups in this in that Western bracket.
Thanks, guys. Well, coming up, we have 3 more regions to go: Central, Northeast, and Southeast. Don't go away.
It's important to get my degree now because I'm always dealing with things on the business side of racing, and it's important to kind of understand what is in your best interest and also how you can develop and grow. It's important to me because I feel like racing is only a chapter of my life. I love racing, and it's what I really want to do forever, but it's good to have something else that you're diverse in and learn something. I feel like it challenges me too. My faith influences my decisions, especially in racing, because everything is very unpredictable. There's a lot of ups and downs in any competition that you're doing or any sport. So I try to keep faith at the center of that and focus on what's important. Well, I think it's a great opportunity if you're even a high school student or an older person trying to go back and get your degree. Liberty University has a great online program, and it allows you to go in there and really start pretty easily.
Going back to school while I was active duty, just thinking about it was both exciting and stressful. Was it easy? No, but it was worth it.
Deployment meant a lot of changes for our family. What didn't change was my priority to stay home with my son while still getting my education.
My time in the service was just the beginning. Now, as a firefighter, I can keep protecting the things I care about: my family, my community, and my education.
Welcome on back into the 2019 ACHA Division II Reveal Show. I'm Brett Vickery alongside Brett Luthner and Sean Bretherick, diving right in to the Central Region, taking place at the Schwann Super Rink. We have number 6, Grand Valley State, versus number 7, Davenport. Then we have number 5, McKendree versus number 8, Adrian. Number 3, Trine versus the lowest remaining seed. Number 4, Marion versus the second lowest remaining seed. Then we have number 10, St. Thomas versus number 11, University of Minnesota. Number 9, Aurora versus number 12, University of Michigan. Now there are a couple teams on the bubble, number 11, Minnesota, number 12, Michigan, looking into getting that hopeful bid, and then the auto bids that are already in there, number 1, Aquinas, and number 2, Lindenwood. You guys know the drill. Biggest storyline for this region?
This region really, it's going to probably be the most competitive region of them all. But what I want to see is will seeds 3 or 4, it was a very tight race. All 3, 2, 3, and 4 were tied going into the last ranking period. Lindenwood obviously gets that one with the national auto bid. So will the 3 Trine and the 4 Marion, will they have a letdown going into this tournament? They're both well-coached teams. But it's something that, it's human nature, that sometimes, you know, when you don't get that national auto bid, now you got to go through the regional tournament, which anything can happen in. And so I want to see, can Trine and can Marion, can they really bounce back now knowing that they're going to a regional tournament? They got to go up to the Schwann Super Rink. And can they get the job done over the course of a Saturday and a Sunday? Yeah,
and Brett, you know, I think one thing for me at least, we talk about the trainings, and we'll get to those. To me, Aurora University, with them being the number 1 in that region last year, they're number 9 this year. So I want to see how they do in a regional tournament. Again, it's all about being able to pace yourself through a full 3-day tournament and being able to get yourself down to Dallas. Let's see if they can do it.
They were 7-1 in the spring semester was Aurora. They have experience from last year's national tournament where they went undefeated until the last day of pool play, I should say. And so that's a team to back up what Sean was saying. Bradley Neal's going to be in goal, doing a good job for them. You know, can they get that done? Their only loss in the spring semester was against Lindenwood. So it's a very good team. They're on the rise. They've been trending upwards. And so to go along with that, yes, let's see what Aurora can do.
You guys, you said that this region is very, very competitive. So, are there any surprises specifically for this region?
For me, it's such a competitive region, and so you knew it was going to be an absolute fight going on in the top 4 seeds, so to speak. I think for me, the biggest surprise may have been, you know, how Grand Valley State really stuck around. They played, they had that little lull. They worked themselves back. Carl Trosian, first-year head coach. They really fight themselves into a good spot here. And so for Grand Valley State to, you know, with the new head coach, after Coach Forbes retired, it's really something that, for me, it was surprising how they picked themselves back up. Any team could have just mailed it in. They picked themselves back up and they said, all right, we got to get back into this situation. And they did so well.
To me, it's the University of Marion and as well as the University of Lindenwood University. The way that the season ended for Lindenwood, they were finally able to get the second rank, two ranking periods in a row. And then you have Marion, who was at some points #1 in the region. Now they have to fight for the final spot in that region. That's just how competitive, as we mentioned before, how competitive that central region is. Let's just see how the morale is for Marion going into this regional tournament.
So these matchups are going to be pretty interesting. What's going to be the best one?
Grand Valley Davenport.
Yeah.
For me, the moment we figured out all the brackets, we got the final rankings and everything, Grand Valley Davenport just is stuck right out like a sore thumb. Or not a sore thumb in this case. It's something great here. As we said, the Lakers have been playing better as of late. Davenport, we know their whole situation coming in. It's what, 7-3 in the spring semester. They had the Miami Showcase where they went 3-0 and they beat 3 top programs in the ACHA. They've been playing really well, especially in the spring semester. So when you look at it, Davenport and Grand Valley State, why do I get the funny feeling that thing's going to go overtime?
You know what? In the central region, I'm not putting anything out to chance at all. But for me, I think you look at a team that is, you know, just trying to make one last good run at it before moving to higher pastures, as some would say, and that's McKendree University. They're taking on Adrian College. Now, Adrian, that whole program up and down has a lot of good ones. Their D1 women's team in the national tournament last year. Their D1 men's team in the national tournament this year, or last year, excuse me. You're going into this year's regional. Adrian has that experience. McKendree, they've been in the regionals. They've been their conference champion, but it's always been they have not been able to get over that hump. Can they do that? They have to get through Adrian first. We'll see if they can. And
Adrian, listen, we got to give them fair play because last year they fought their way all the way through, got to the national tournament, and had some motivation going through that region. We recognize that very well. So, you know, fair play to Adrian last year. You got to do it again now.
Thanks, guys. Well, two regions done, 2 more to go. When we come back, we head up the East Coast. We'll be right back.
Since 1971, Liberty's had one mission: training champions for Christ. Our standard is excellence with integrity, and our goal is to equip you with the resources and knowledge you need to thrive in today's digital marketplace. We, the communicators of Liberty University, are committed to changing the world with the power of today's top digital and social platforms. As an online or residential student, you'll be prepared to lead communication and digital teams in businesses, government agencies, or nonprofits. And students who study on campus will go hands-on with state-of-the-art equipment in areas like advertising, broadcast, and journalism. No matter what degree you pursue, you'll get the experience and portfolio you need to set yourself apart in today's job market. Whether you want to work in video, report for a sports or news network, or lead a PR firm, Liberty will prepare you to make an impact as a champion for Christ.
I'm Brett Vickery alongside Brett Luthner and Sean Broderick, and we've been talking a couple regions, Central and the West Coast. Now we're heading up the East Coast now, starting out with the Northeast region. They're going to be starting out with the Albany County Hockey Facility, and then they're going to move, actually, the Sunday portion of their tournament to the Houston Fieldhouse. Starting out, number 6, RPI versus number 7, Erie Community College. Number 5, Boston College versus number 8, Norwich. Next, number 3, Northeastern versus the lowest remaining seed. Number 4, Keene State versus second lowest remaining seed. Then we have number 10, Roger Williams versus number 11, UMass Lowell. Then number 9, Holy Cross versus number 12, Fredonia State. And it's actually Fredonia State and UMass Lowell that are number 11, number 12, that are on the bubble waiting for that auto bid. And then our national auto bids are number 1, UMass Amherst, and number 2, UNH. Another region, whole other side of the country now. Biggest storyline for the Northeast.
For me, UNH, how they shot right up. They were hovering at 5 the entire year, and then UNH shoots right up to 2. They take an auto bid, and in the process knocks Northeastern down to the 3 spot, knocks Keene State down to the 4 spot, and it really, between that and then Erie Community College coming into this one, and they're getting RPI first, is how are they going to do and in this whole tournament? So there was a lot of shuffling around with that going on in the last week of the season. And for me, the big storyline is now Northeastern's got to go play. They'll be ready, but how will everybody else react to all of a sudden getting bumped down because of what UNH did in sweeping UMass Amherst?
Yeah, exactly. A 6-3 and 5-1 victory against the number 1 in the land in the Northeast. And then you have Northeastern losing 3-0 to Boston College, following up a 3-3 tie to UMass Lowell, which is one of those 2 bubble teams. That in all those combinations, it's a nice little mixture of a little bit of chaos, as I would like to say. A team that was ranked 5th pretty much consistently all the way up until the final ranking period gets their way up because of that last weekend, pretty much to number 2. And I think that's been a very big deal for that UNH team. Whole new regime going on over there. And it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the Northeast does up in Albany and Troy.
Northeastern's a well-coached team, though, and they're really they're gonna go through this like, all right, look, we put ourselves in that situation, and so for Northeastern's, we got ourselves in this mess. Now let's get ourselves out of it by going to the national tournament, winning 2 games.
Are there any surprises in here besides, you guys, your storylines were pretty surprising as well, but are there any teams specifically that surprised you in this region?
For me, the surprise would be Northeastern essentially putting themselves right back down into the regional tournament. You would think they would ride it out, get it done, but Northeastern losing that auto bid for the national tournament and dropping down, that's really the big surprise to me in this one, and they have to rebound.
And I agree, and I think a couple other things too, just to piggyback off of it. Boston College and RPI both are 5 and 6. They were hovering around 2 and 3 respectively. Now both of them have to try to get through a tournament. RPI basically hosting the tournament itself, and if everything goes right, if it's all chalk basically the whole way, RPI is not going to be the home team, but we know that the RPI Engineers' pride will definitely be up there at the Houston Fieldhouse if they make it there. And
if they win that game on day 2, essentially, what's going to end up happening is RPI is going to be at Houston Fieldhouse for that Sunday game. If Northeastern wins, you think Northeastern, 1 week they're 2, and they have a national auto bid going on, and then all of a sudden they're going to have to go to RPI, and Houston Fieldhouse is one of the most difficult places to play. If chalk holds out, as Sean said, Northeastern's got to go play RPI at their barn. That's never an easy task, and it's going to make for a very interesting Sunday.
Do you think that's going to be the best matchup?
If it gets to that, yes. But if we're looking at days 1 and 2, there are actually 2 matchups I want to see. I initially thought just 1, but there's really 2. I'll let Sean take one of them, though. For me, I'll take the 10-11 matchup where Roger Williams is going. We believe it's going to be UMass Lowell. If the at-large percentages or the conference auto bid percentages work out in the craziest factor, then that becomes a conference auto bid. But really, I want to see how that 10-11 matchup works out, because Roger Williams has always been one of those clubs that have been nipping at the heels, trying to work their way up. This is a perfect opportunity. You win a game on Friday, you potentially go in against Saturday against Northeastern and see if you can catch them napping to put yourself in a Sunday game.
Yeah, and again, mine personally, again, I go back to RPI once again. They're taking on Erie Community College, which is almost kind of a virtual, kind of an unknown, really a newer team in this kind of aspect, really to see what Erie Community College can do against a team that's been there, done that as far as regionals in RPI. So, I mean, Erie Community College with that 98 goal differential at a 2-time NJCAA JUCO champion, I think they have some experience in winning big games, but we'll see how they can do at this level.
Thanks, guys. Well, we have one more region to go, the Southeast, and then predictions from these guys. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
My company and I first learned about Liberty University through an intern, and after her internship, we hired her as a video editor. And since then, we have hosted several Liberty University students as interns. They're awesome, very professional, very team-oriented, very confident. They're able to work well within a team, but also individually.
I've been very pleased with just the caliber of students that we've been able to hire from Liberty, and it's really our go-to place when we're beginning to look for young women that can be our voice on Capitol Hill, can work on deep policy, important issues. It's been a great experience to work with Liberty.
My impression with working with Liberty students is that they are driven, that they want to be involved in the community, and above all, that they have great values, and they live by those values.
At Teen Tryon right now, we have about 8 Liberty grads working there, and every single one of them has always been very positive, very willing to work, motivated, and they just love what they're doing. You know, they find peace at where they're at, and it seems like they really enjoy learning and growing in their career. Liberty does an amazing job of training you to use your faith and then also convert that into being a business person and working in the real world.
The one thing that we've seen at Family Resource Council with the Liberty interns is that they are prepared when they leave this university to go and change the world. When we talk about being champions for Christ, it's something that they really take with them. That mission still today is bearing fruit in Washington, D.C. for us, in New York City, Hollywood, and many other places. I would challenge anybody to find a better university than Liberty.
Welcome on back to our final analysis of our regions, the Southeast region. I'm Brett Vickery alongside Brett Lithner and Sean Bretherick. And for our Southeast region, we have number 6, Delaware versus number 7, Miami. Number 5, Rider versus number 8, North Carolina State. Number 3, Liberty versus the lowest remaining seed. Number 4, Cincinnati versus the second lowest remaining seed. Then at number 10, Ohio State versus number 11, University of Virginia. Number 9, Rowan versus number 12, Louisville. And it's number 11, Virginia, and number 12, Louisville, that are on the bubble for those auto bids, and the national auto bid takers are number 1, Florida Gulf Coast, and number 2, Penn State. You guys know the drill by now. Storylines for our final region.
Well, first of all, there's a lot of potential wild cards in this whole thing. So the ACC, anybody other than North Carolina State could take an auto bid. The Colonial, anybody there could take an auto bid. Tri-State as well. Maryland, Stevenson out of the MOC. But there's only 2 auto bids that can go for the Southeast region. So that those 11 and 12 spots on the bubble, there's some jeopardy there. Other than that, the biggest storyline is who's going to beat the top 2 seats. with all due respect to every other team in that region, Liberty and Cincinnati have been 3-4 all the way through all year. Florida Gulf Coast has always been 1. It's been Penn State 2, and that's been all season long. Liberty and Cincinnati have flip-flopped between the 3 and the 4, and they haven't shown any signs of letting go of that. So who's going to beat those two teams? Especially, Sean, when you got to come here and have to face Liberty at LaHaye, where it doesn't matter what team you're playing here, the Flames are going to be a tough out.
Well, yeah, and the answer to that question, really the only kind of answer of that question could be is a team that has played at LaHaye. And, you know, there's a couple of teams in this Southeast region that I think might have an opportunity to do so. You talk about the University of Delaware, for example. They've come to LaHaye and they've played before. The other team that's really interesting to me, and Cincinnati, it's interesting because you look at North Carolina State. They're very similar in their way of trending upwards, at least through the last few years, to me anyway, as far as how they and Cincinnati are very similar with the way that they've been playing. A lot of goal totals, high scoring for North Carolina State. Now they'll be in a tournament where they'll be playing a completely, different playing field than what they're used to in the ACC. We'll see how they do when they play some better opponents. 22-0, they haven't lost.
Any surprises?
Really, this bracket played out the way we thought it was going to all season long. You know, we know who from pretty much from the get-go, we knew who the 2 auto bids were going to be nationally. You knew Liberty and Cincinnati were going to flip-flop between the 3 and the 4. Maybe the one little surprise going out of this is that Miami dropped down to 7. By the last ranking. They were really bunched up there with number 5 Rider and number 6 Delaware. Now Delaware sits there and they got to deal with Miami in the first round, and then whoever wins that game, if all plays out, might get Liberty here at LaHaye on the last day. So really, Miami dropping down to 7, probably the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah, again, this is a region that really did just kind of play itself out very much just nice and level, not really a bunch of spikes, really. We knew about Florida Gulf Coast, the way that they played in the national championship last year. You knew that they were going to be a player again, and Penn State will look to try to go back to the national tournament, and will definitely look to improve on their performance from when they had last year. Liberty and Cincinnati, again, the same. It's all the same. It's about as what we expected. No surprises for me.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put you guys on the hot seat now. Who's taking home that trophy? They go to Dallas for the national tournament. Who's your champion?
Oof. I mean, first, I have got to look through the whole Southeast region, and just getting through that's going to be difficult. And then if I'm going to look at anything from the national championship, Florida Gulf Coast last year, they got on me when I picked William Patterson to win the national championship, and Florida Gulf Coast rolled through everybody. So don't think I haven't forgotten that, boys. With all due respect to every other program, Florida Gulf Coast, now the target's on their back.
Okay.
So I'm going to say Florida Gulf Coast is going to win the national championship, but it's going to be a close game. It's going to be much closer than people think. I
said it to the man afterwards when his team didn't get the job done. Unfortunately, was the runner-up last year. It's going to be different this time. Gary Gardner, Lindenwood. That's what I think.
All right. Well, you heard it from here, folks. Thanks so much for watching the 2019 ACHA Division II Reveal Show. I'm Brett Vickery, alongside Brett Luthner and Sean Brederick. And on behalf of our entire crew, thanks again for watching. Good luck to all the teams. Everyone have a great night.